Casey Johnson reports that the Chicago Bulls are finding the trade market for Zach LaVine more limited than maybe what they've expected. We're going to talk about what that means, as I have a theory right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, HAize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let me go ahead and get into the content, right? It's a quick update episode. I wanted to get this out. I didn't want to wait till tomorrow's daily episode to talk about this because I know that this is going to be taken and people are going to kind of take it and run with it, and you're going to be all confused by the way that people use this to make a completely different article, and then it's going to eventually get to the point where it's not necessarily what Casey Johnson said. So Casey Johnson was on the NBC Bulls Talk podcast, which I've appeared on before. Make sure you guys go and check it out. It's a really good podcast. But he said this when asked about the Zach LaVine trade market. He says, "My sense is the market is very limited right now, but I do think this will lead to a Zach LaVine trade. I just think it's an unattainable situation that needs to be resolved." Now, one may ask themselves, right, is that we hear a different team may be interested in Zach LaVine every day. What do you mean the trade market's limited? I think it means that it comes down to the right now portion of what Casey Johnson said. And you're going to get a lot of people who take just the part of that is very limited, and they're going to take that and run with that and make that the headline of their articles. The right now part of it is the biggest part, I think, in all of it. And I have a couple of theories into what he may mean by the right now part of it. I think the clearest thing is that nobody's expecting Zach LaVine to be moved before December 15th. So if you're talking about the situation needing to be resolved right now, it's probably not going to be. We got a little under a month until that. It's probably at the earliest that it's going to be fixed and solved. And keep in mind, that just means if you're trading players that were just signed this offseason, it could be. I think there's a date in further on in January for the rookies that were just drafted to be signed. So if any kind of deal does involve a rookie that was just drafted, which I don't necessarily think that it is, it could be even further than that. So the right now portion is the key thing to it. I think that you may be finding the market limited right now because of the situation with the contracts. Now, it also comes down to this, is that the Bulls may be looking, or maybe had seen what they could get right now just because of the situation with Zach's attitude, things like that, even though I think some of that's been overblown. But the fact is, you just get it over with and done with. And what it does to the morale of the roster, and just a situation that kind of everybody understands now is inevitable, to just get it done and over with. And they're finding the market limited because teams just can't put their best offer forward because of the situation with the contracts of players that just signed this offseason can't be moved until December 15th. So that is the most likely theory in all of this, on why right now the Bulls are finding the market for Zach LaVine limited. And, we've heard things like, oh, well, there's a higher market. There's more interest in Alex Caruso, even in Patrick Williams. And I think that really comes down to those players' contracts being less than Zach's. Also, you can match those contracts way easier. And because, especially when the Alex Caruso sense of it, the Bulls are going to be looking for matching salary, but then also some draft picks, and that's probably going to be the main thing of it. That's really easier for teams to kind of try to acquire right now. And then we already talked about the Patrick Williams portion of it. I think that there are some teams, some vultures circling, hoping that the Bulls are going to sell low on a player like Patrick Williams, and then maybe that they are in a better situation to grow and cultivate his talent, which the history of trading former lottery picks that are kind of underwhelming, it doesn't really bode well for the team that's moving them. So those are kind of all unlikely. Now, the second theory that I think that comes down to this as well is that teams know now, right? It's out. And that's one of the reasons why you heard this now thing that we've gotten reported as is a trade request, initially reported as the Bulls and Zach are more open than ever before to trade, is because once every team in the NBA knows, oh no, this team has to move this player, the offers get less and less, right? Because teams are going to be willing to wait it out. Now, it's not as much of a risk for in the Zach LaVine situation because he still has so many years left on his deal, right? On a deal that he's only in the second season of. So there's that part of it. But I do think that teams are circling, hoping that because of how stressful this situation may get, right? And how much, extra drama it is around the situation, and how it may be affecting team morale, is that teams may be waiting to or not putting their best offer forward, hoping that the Chicago Bulls are going to get to the point where they just have to take a deal to get Zach LaVine out of here so they can move forward with whatever the next version of the roster is to kind of clean that locker room. Not to say that Zach LaVine is a locker room cancer. I don't think that. I truly don't. But just this drama around what's going to happen with Zach LaVine, it clears up their future. It removes some of the questions from other players. Keep in mind, like I said before, the Bulls are probably going to have to move somebody else other than just Zach LaVine in the deal, depending on how many players the other team wants to send back, unless you get a third team involved, things like that. So when it comes down to it, I think that may be part of this as well, is that why is a team going to kind of put their best foot forward right now when, A, they know a lot of teams' other best offers aren't coming till December 15th, and in waiting till December 15th, it may get to the point to where the tension builds so high that the Bulls are kind of forced to make a move just to kind of save the morale around the team. So those are kind of the things that I look at when I hear this thought process and stuff from KC Johnson. When you also pair that with what's come from Shams and Darnell Mayberry, it's still going to be a while before the Zach LaVine trade goes down. And, even Darnell Mayberry said recently is that it may even go closer to the February 9th trade deadline, is that when we actually see a resolve come from this. And if it comes out that long, there are definitely teams that are going to be waiting it out, hoping that they're going to be able to offer the Chicago Bulls maybe a little bit less just so they can get this deal done. But that's my thought process on it. Let me know what you guys think on everything down below. When you hear the limited Zach LaVine market, how does that make you feel? I know some people are going to say, well, it's because of his contract. Teams don't believe in the contract. I don't think that that's really the thing. That's not the vibe that I'm getting. But, hey, there could be some validity in that as well. But let me know your thoughts all down below. Otherwise, make sure you're following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.